What's up, you guys? David here once again for another video. And before you click out, I know it looks like a pretty average looking truck, but we're gonna talk about this truck because it is special. Why is it special? This is a Nissan Hardbody, one of the most important vehicles Nissan ever made. And what is my argument? If you're having trouble finding a 240 SX and you wanna drift, or if you wanna make a cool Nissan in general, should you just focus on the 240 SX? Or could you build a drift truck? Because this has almost the exact same motor as a stock 240 SX. So we're gonna go for a drive in this today, talk about it, and see the differences. Sound good? Sound good. So this is Matt, and right now, the first thing we're doing is he's warning me about all the little things that could be wrong with the car. And what was the braking thing you were talking about?
So just when you brake, especially just the harder you brake, the more to the right it pulls. So if you have to slam the brakes, you can either go completely right or pull left really hard.
So just, so drift without drifting, right? Full lock.
So the other thing is the stick shift.
Okay.
The actual, is really loose.
Okay.
So when you put it into third,
all right,
it's gonna fall back, but it won't change gears. It just
it just settles back. Yeah. Okay. You know what? First things first. It sounds like a pig nose 240. For real. What made you pick this truck over almost anything to get around in or haul stuff in?
A couple of reasons. One, it was just they're dirt cheap on Craigslist. So, you can just get them everywhere. It's supposed to be relatively bulletproof. The K24 is good. I don't know what transmission is in it, but they say that you can beat on it pretty hard.
Because I go on some forums and people talk about all the time, can I put the 240 transmission in the hardbody, or can I, vice versa? And I think a lot of people's first question will be is it just as good as a 240 when it comes to all around everything? And I don't know, because the wheelbase you could argue is pretty close.
Yeah.
But I think the number one difference is that will keep people away from the Hardbody as a platform is the suspension, or lack thereof, basically. So would you like to explain that?
Yeah, so it's just, it's set up the way a lot of newer trucks are set up, where it's leaf springs in the back and torsion bars in the front. So
there's literally nothing there when you look in there. I expected a spring and a strut and everything, and there's just nothing.
Yeah.
This is a truck, but it feels more like a car when you're in it. It's a good seating position. You're not super high off the ground, and you just recently got new wheels and tires too, you said.
Yeah. So they're 15-inch wheels instead of the stock 14-inch. They're an inch wider, so they're 8-inch instead of 7-inch, and then the tires are a little bit fatter than the stock ones.
And so by having that, you said by having an extra inch or whatever, that was just enough to where you could lower the car.
Well, that will let me put the lowering spindles on it, which will give me about a 2-inch drop in the front.
I can't really see this car as I'm gonna go crazy off-roading.
Yeah, unless you have the 4x4 version, and then you put the pre-runner, desert runner, Baja look to it, and it looks pretty good. But
I have to say though, because you got this car for a steal, and the interior is almost flawless.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I love your seat covers. The first thing I noticed when I drove up today was the seat covers. Watch, somebody's gonna make a meme out there on Car Throttle or something. Be like, yeah, David Patterson said seat covers were mod.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. So you also have a Scion, you said too, right?
Yeah, I've got the Scion XD, the one that no one likes or cares about. It's like a dumbed down Corolla engine in a car that weighs 25 or something like that. Yeah, so it's not bad.
And the internet claims that this makes how much horsepower?
138 from the factory.
I think it's funny that the D21, when we talk about it, we go, oh, it uses the 240 SX's engine. But in reality, the 240 SX uses a truck engine.
Yep.
It's the vice versa of, it's all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I feel as though when we think about the KA and the 240, we feel like we were ripped off, when Japan had the SR and everything else. So it's you're kidding me, right? You got this awesome turbo motor out of the box for its time, especially. That was an amazing engine. And then we got stuck with this truck motor. Pretty much the only difference between this motor and the 240SX's single cam motor is in the cylinder head. It's like only a few little things, but nothing too crazy. But I think it's safe to say it's the same engine. Yeah, pretty much. No, I could, like, if this thing had a really good suspension, like really low, really everything, you could see the potential in this thing.
Yeah.
I feel like the chassis itself is good. Like the body and everything is good. But I feel as though if you had a proper, like, you know, suspension, like I said earlier,
like springs.
Yeah, like springs. If you were on springs or coils, like this thing would be awesome because it's so light.
Yeah.
You can feel it. But the problem with it, it's like this double-edged sword that it's so light that it's wobbly because it has that higher center of gravity and there's nothing keeping it down. I mean, you said you got the car with dry rotted tires on it.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get any traction because there's no weight in the back.
Yeah, which is great if that's what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
But when you're just trying to drive it
To go
in the
around
rain,
town,
it
yeah.
was terrible.
People ask me, like, what should I buy as a daily? And it's so hard for me. It's so hard for me anymore going, like, don't buy a truck because trucks are the perfect daily now in America anyway. Like, they're not, you know, sought after in like the UK as much as we love them, but think about it. If you have to go get furniture or have to haul wood or whatever to your house, whatever it is. I remember I had my first car was an 02 Mustang convertible, right? And I wanted to build a quarter pipe at my house. I did not have access to a truck. So I went to Lowe's, put my top all the way down, and just stuffed as much wood as I could hanging out. And people were taking pictures of me left and right. And I'm like, I'm just a kid with a dream, okay? The car is really light. I mean, you can feel it. You said today was your first time driving this on the highway.
Yeah.
And it only went to like 60 miles an hour, basically.
Yeah, 60 was fifth gear at like 3,000, 4,000.
You have these really funny Sony speakers just chilling there. And then you said that there's just some wiring to where a subwoofer used to be.
Yeah, it's just a blue cable sticking in the back and you can trace it. I mean, they did a good job wiring it. It's just, now it's a pain to get it out because there's nothing hooked up to it.
Right. Overall plans for the car, like, you know, dumping it and fender flares and all that stuff.
Yeah. The first step will be the spindles and the lowering blocks. And then I picked up a 4x4 fender off a Pathfinder. I gotta find another one. They're wider and a little bit deeper, so when I lower it, I shouldn't have any clearance issues with rubbing or anything like that.
Because we were talking about earlier that Finnegan from Roadkill is like a mini truck, like he loves them, and he actually lives in this area.
Yeah.
So shout out to Finnegan. Loves those old Datsuns, and so do I, and that's what this car really reminds me of, is an old Datsun truck, because if you look at the line of the hardbody, or the code anyway, this is the D21, correct?
Yep.
If you look at the code, this is a D21, but the predecessors had codes just like this, but it was rebranded as Datsun into Nissan.
Yeah.
So, in the end, it's a more modern Datsun.
Yeah, the closer you get to like the 1989 hardbody, the more Datsun it is, and then kind of the later you go. Because after 95, I think it was in 97, is when they switched the hardbody over to the Frontier.
That's right, and the Frontier is slowly the replacement for a little bit. I mean, the Pathfinder was, excuse me, and then the Frontier. But now look at Nissan trucks. The Titan, the Cummins in it is amazing.
Yeah.
Towing capacity of this little tiny truck is 3,500 pounds to 4,000 pounds, you said?
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, people on any kind of forum or, you know, I hauled this, no problem.
Actually, in my day, I did this.
So that was the other thing I was going to warn you about. The front right directional.
Okay.
It works sometimes, other times it doesn't.
Okay.
But the one in the back works, and the left one works, but...
I noticed you plastied up the front bumper, too.
I did.
It looks pretty good.
I did. It was just a little too much chrome for my taste on the front.
Yeah. When you sent me the first picture of the car, I was like, God, that chrome, man. Like, it's killing me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you replaced the wheels and everything else. I was like, that looks so much better.
Yeah.
It's subtle little things. And it doesn't look like it's just some old truck sitting on a car lot, you know. And I think this thing's going to be sweet, but... I think another thing people will notice the first time they get in a truck like this is when you get up to speed, it starts feeling like a kite. Start feeling the plane, the steering right here.
Yeah, it's a great under 50 miles an hour truck.
Yeah, and so we're at 50 right now, and it starts vibrating instantly as soon as I pass that. That's so funny.
Yeah, I think there's something maybe wheel bearing related because it's right here, right at 55.
Yeah, I'm at 55.
That it shakes really bad. Under that, above that, it smooths out a little bit.
I would say wheel bearing. I mean, it seems like most people, when it's such a specific speed, it's just the rotational mass for some reason doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, at this particular speed, you're not allowed to drive. Kind of reminds me of like the little MG I did in California on the highway. That was just scary. You know, this is a tiny little truck, it's a tiny little car.
Yeah. At least that one's lower to the ground.
Exactly. But I mean, there's the legacy of these old Japanese clucks of just lasting forever. And somebody the other day was like, hey, when are you gonna engine swap that? And you're like, whenever this blows up. I'm like, but what if it doesn't?
Yeah, if it doesn't, then it's staying in forever.
It's staying in forever. And it's like the old Toyota truck that Clarkson tried to kill. You know, they could not kill it no matter what they could. But now I think the Toyotas might be like a little more reliable, but overall it's still really cool that they use very similar engines. But so in other words, it's easier to make a 240 drift than a D21 without a doubt.
Yes.
But if you're committed, I think it would be really cool. I've seen 2 or 3 of them done, and I never got to talk to the owner, so I didn't even realize it was torsion bars and everything else. So I think that's really, really cool and nifty. But I just don't think it's the best way to do suspension. You know, I'm no engineer.
Yeah.
But, you know, especially with modern cars nowadays.
I would like to go to bags at some point. But in order to do that, you have to like C-notch the back frame.
Oh my God.
And then it turns into, you know, any other mini truck build where you're cutting and welding and doing a lot of...
Yeah, there seems like there's a lot of fabrication in mini truck builds. Yeah. So on that note, I think we covered just about everything with the D21 truck. So if you were ever curious about this as a platform, now you know what goes into it. And huge thanks to you for letting me drive it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And I'll see you guys next time, and take it easy. Have a great day.